Well, you thought the leaden winter would bring you down forever, but you rode upon a steamer to the violence of the sun. And you want to take her with you to the hard land of the winter.
Among all the songs that I was listening to, this really affected me. I was in London,
Okay.
and then I moved to New York, and the music followed me. and it was much later. I mean, they had played the song earlier. I was hearing it much later, but it was a beautiful song. I've always liked Eric Clapton and these guys, and I saw that the song was just poetry, and it really, I felt like Ulysses there, listening to the songs and tying himself down so he couldn't get distracted, and it was exactly how I felt.
Definitely.
And for me, it was a beautiful song. Though I've heard many of Eric Clapton's songs since, but that one was special. You thought the leaden winter would bring you down forever, but you rode upon the steamer to the violence of the sun. And the colors of the sea blind your eyes with trembling mermaids. You touch the distant beaches with tales of brave Ulysses. How his naked ears were tortured by the sirens sweetly singing, by the sparkling waves are calling you to kiss their white laced lips. And you see a girl's brown body dancing through the turquoise, and her footprints they make you follow where the sky loves the sea. And when your fingers find her, she drowns you in her body, carving deep blue ripples in the tissues of your mind. You're facing all these temptations, and you simply cannot let yourself be pulled in. So Ulysses has tied himself down so he can't, jump into the sea and go after all these things. First thing that came to my mind that I was working so hard. I I would get up at 4 o'clock and run out to the computer lab because at the time there was no laptops that you can work from at home. And I would go there and work on it because I was trying to get my degree in master's in math and computer science. And that was the only way I could do it, going there early in the morning and and I was also working as a TA for the lecturer and working, and I had a small child at home, so it was everything had to be extremely focused. It was like you just solve this equation, you go to work, you write your code, because I was working on a very exciting project at work, but very time consuming. Then you'd come home and you're with the children and not having any family there because we were all transplants. It was very difficult, and you simply cannot or could not go off and listen to music. I mean, it was late 70s, early 80s, and there was it was like Ulysses, his ears were tortured listening to the sirens, but he could not do anything about it or would not let it affect him. And the music was, the longing in it really affected me. I liked it. They really seemed to enjoy themselves singing the song. And it was unusual to me because of the imagery of the song. It was more like a poem uh, than a song. And I found it beautiful. And since I read all the Greek myths, I knew who Ulysses was, and who the sirens were, and how they would lure the sailors to their deaths by singing to them.
Yes.
And so he didn't want to die. He didn't want his sailors to die. So he was a very cunning guy, Ulysses, as
Yes.
well as being brave. So he made his sailors stuff their ears so they couldn't hear the music. And he had them tie him to the mast so he couldn't fling himself into the water and go after them and die.
Wow.
But he knew that he wanted to listen to them. And also in the words, I like the way he describes the summer and the winter,
Mm.
violent summer
The
and
violent summer.
hard
Yes.
winter. And the, and the sirens are there and they want to kiss you with their white laced lips, which means you'll be in the sea with them and you'll be dead. So it's really, he's afraid. He's very much afraid of it, but he doesn't want to give up this
Mm.
listening to them.
Mm.
And it's a distraction and a very powerful one, like an addiction almost if he gives in.
Yes.
And, and I love Jack Bruce's drumming. It was very rhythmic, and the song, Clapton's music, it was this longing, and he couldn't go there.
Mm. Mm.
And but he managed to listen to the songs. He went past the sirens, and he was able to continue his way home. And that really struck a chord with me.
Mm. Mm.
The pun, yeah, because I really could not allow any distractions. I just had to stay on the straight, narrow path. And I worked so hard, it was crazy. Uh, I was a student at the
Okay.
time, and I was also working. I had first heard it in London and then again in New York. So I was studying at New York University
Mm-hmm.
at the Courant Institute, which had a math and computer department.
Okay. Yes.
So I was getting my master's there, and this was in the early 80s,
Wow.
and no laptops at home. So you
Mm.
had to go and work in the lab. And because I had a small child, a 2-year-old, it was difficult for me just to go out anytime.
Mm.
So I would get up at 4 in the morning while it was still dark and go to.
Wow.
Sometimes my husband would wake up and say, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going to the lab." And he's like, "I'm too tired to do anything, but when you come back, I'm going to divorce you." And I sort of wheedled my instructor into giving me a job, which was really great. And then I was working for a bank, which was in those days really exciting. So I worked for Citibank, and they were doing amazing things. They had this project, and at the end of it, we all got this coffee mug. If you put hot coffee in it, it lit up. There were buildings in it which would lit up, and it
Oh,
said, "The city never sleeps." And this was to celebrate them creating these ATMs.
wow.
So, yeah,
Wow.
so this, they never slept.
Wow. And they don't.
And after that project, I went to another bank to write a trading system. And
Wow.
it was very exciting. They had pulled people from all over the place. We
Mm-hmm.
had guys from NASA, we had people from the space programs. And when they couldn't find anyone, they hired musicians
Oh,
because
wow.
there was some research and they found that musicians were the best programmers.
Interesting.
Yes, because they had a grasp of structure and logic. Get these musicians and train them in coding.
Wow. That
And
is
my
so good.
best boss was a French horn player. Even when I was studying and doing math, they were very heavy on music.
Mm.
Um, Outside of studying, I mean. I know I can sing it because the range in which he is singing, I'll never be able to do that. So I find myself saying it almost like a rap song. So when he's saying, um, and the colors of the sea bind your eyes with trembling mermaids, and you touch the distant beaches with tales of brave Ulysses, how his naked ears were tortured by the siren sweetly singing. for the sparkling waves are calling you to kiss their white lace lips. It's just the rhythm of the words. Yeah, it's a rap song there,